Picking up on my last topic of wage slavery, I'd like to discuss really quick in this small chat. How do you know when you are a wage slave? How can you find out? Well, I got a few bits of information that may help you find out whether you are a slave or not, as far as employment is concerned, as far as working for a employer, company, corporation, entity, organization, etc. If you routinely take orders, if you punch a clock, if you routinely take scolding or verbal admonishment from a boss, a superior, a supervisor, a manager, you're pretty much a slave to that company, a wage slave, because you very often take all kinds of verbal punishment, all kinds of humiliation, and you stick it up, and you a lot of times bite your lips, bite your tongue, and don't say nothing back, or worse yet, don't do anything in response to such treatment, to such unfair and abusive treatment. And that's a few hints that can tell you, that can indicate that you are a wage slave. Why do I say this? This may seem a bit extreme, but in reality, in the back of your mind, a lot of calculations are going on, a lot of thoughts going through your head, a lot of decisions being made, even when you're unaware of all these happenings in your brain, in your mind. These are balancing the consequences of either talking back, speaking back, demanding better treatment, or taking action, quitting, or walking away, walking off, or telling your boss off. All of these things are being balanced in your mind, and they are very much being calculated by your brain. And in the end, if you do not respond to make things better, you are pretty much a wage slave, because you choose to take the punishment instead of making a stand, trying to make change, make a difference. Because in the very end, you depend on that weekly paycheck, bi-weekly paycheck, payment, benefit that you may get from that company, entity, organization, group, or person. And that is just one of the many ways you can tell whether you are at this very moment a wage slave or not. So why am I so passionate about wage slavery and those being abused, and the problem itself? Well, my background has a lot to do with it. A lot of the things, the research I've done, I've written some articles and papers about that. I've also experienced some of the abuse, some of the malice that can originate from such a problem as wage slavery. I come from an area. I was actually born in an area where this is very much on the surface. It being coupled with racism and class differences and class and race hatred, as it has been termed. I have experienced, and this very much has fueled my passion and my fervor to expose and talk about this very controversial subject. Again, wage slavery is real. Again, going back to my own experiences. I was born in an area where, depending how you look, who you are, what family name you have, what area you were born from, what area you grew up in, what school you went to, and who do you work for. Depending on all those factors, you are determined what class and how you get treated. What class you belong to and how you get treated, which is, by all definition, in every circumstance, a very nasty and low, backward, and very primitive and stupid and ignorant situation, thing to do, and way of thinking. This did not only happen around where I grew up, but also here in America. When I migrated as a teenager, I noticed it. I notice it to this day, more so than not in the southeast part of the United States, the Florida area, the South Florida area, where I am most familiar with as far as living in Florida. Is very, very on the surface. The problem of wage slavery, class differences, maltreatment, and treatment depending on those factors I just mentioned, as far as race, looks, where you come from, where you are, how you dress, what material possessions you have, your demeanor. I mean, all of these things determine, sadly enough, in this day and age, sadly enough, they still determine how you get treated, how much respect you get. And this is very prevalent in the workplace. Going back to wage slavery, these factors should not matter one bit. How you get treated at the workplace, how much you get paid, how many hours you are demanded to work, what tasks you're demanded to do. These factors, about the ones I spoke about, race, for example, your education background, have very little bearing, no bearing on your worth as a human being. Therefore, how you get treated, how much respect you get. And sadly enough, most people do not get enough, not nearly enough training and coaching and direction on these very, very critical things, very important things about how to treat each other, how to treat your neighbor, the next person, and your fellow employees, mostly your fellow co-workers. Ethics and human rights and human worth and worker ethics are very seldom taught at the workplace, let alone schools, universities, high schools, colleges. You just don't hear about them. I mean, my experiences in school, from grade school all the way through graduate school, I mean, this is very seldom, if ever, mentioned about, working ethics, what not to do, how to value each individual, how to respect the worth of each individual based on a very simple thing, which is a inalienable human right, which is to be treated with respect and some sort of care, value, honor, however you want to name it or label it. A human being deserves a very high level of respect, regardless of any of the factors that I just mentioned. If a human being disrespects you, in my view, that human being needs more education, training, more care, more attention, and more guidance. Given all of those, and the human being still acts wild and crazy and just treats people wrong or bad, I mean, at that point we can be very comfortable saying that that person has psychological mental problems, and at that point other types of treatment would be needed. But for the most part, most people will behave in a respectful, ethical, and trustworthy manner if, like I said, guidance, training, education, care, attention is given to that person from very early ages, very early stages in the training and education system, which again is very seldom practiced or not practiced at all, as far as my experiences go and the experiences of others who have shared them with me. Also, my background with many employers so far has been, to say the least, disappointing. Companies nowadays are very, very aggressive as far as making profit, making the company grow economically and physically, and they are very, very rabid and, again, aggressive when it comes to accomplishing those things. And the people that may not be up to just dealing with those and paying very little attention, at the same time paying very little attention to their human worth, basically the companies set aside and sideline and let the ones that are ambitious as far as the company making money and the company growing, those are the ones that usually, for the most part, make the inner circle and appreciated few of within the company. And as you may by now tell, I am not that type of person that puts company profits and the company growth first. I put people first, us first. Company only comes second. And that is not very popular with a lot of companies. Some, maybe. I'm yet to run into one that is, especially in today's economic climate. This is a rarity, if not a impossibility, for companies to be people driven, people oriented, or people centered, where the employee basically runs the company. The employee determines whether the company makes money or not. And number one should be, in my mind, the employee and those people that the company serves, whether it's a service, good, or whatever else the company may be providing. And those are, in very briefly, and in very brief terms, those are my experiences. Again, companies, for my experience, are not in it to help people, whether it is their employees or customers. That is, I'm talking about the primary reason for the company to exist. It's not by far to help out employees, not so much to help out their customers, but for the most part, as far as my experience, they're there to help themselves, to help the company, maybe to help investors, and for the company to grow as an entity. I'm not sure if this is a natural phenomenon as corporations become entities, and entities are, as far as organisms, are highly um, self-centered and selfish individuals, organisms, thus doing everything and whatever it takes to make itself survive. For it will do anything it takes to better itself, to grow, to expand, to make sure its own existence is guaranteed. And that may be a flaw for creating companies and having corporations be pretty much as entities, as organisms, where they will try to expand at whatever cost. And this, sadly enough, brings a lot of suffering and a lot of problems and a lot of harm to its environment and its very employees that make it up, and perhaps sometimes, if not more than sometimes, harm to even the customers. Yes, companies and corporations do bring a lot of good. In many cases, they do bring very many benefits to both their employees and their customers. But we must also consider the dark side, that second edge on that double-edged sword that I speak of once in a while. And we must consider the very state and the very idea of corporations and the freedoms that most corporations have as far as how they treat their employees, what they do with them. For example, here in the Southeast, it's very popular for companies to have a fire at will policy, which is very much backed up by their local governments, allowed, and job security is non-existent. Much more increasingly so right now, and this is a very volatile situation for employees, employers as well, but mostly for employees and their families and the customers, because the customers in the end, they suffer when experience is shuffled around within a company or within companies. And again, there's a lot of suffering involved with the way the system is set up, especially here in the Southeast, where companies can very easily and with no reason at all just fire an individual. And this open up a can of worms as far as abuse, prejudice, as far as like I said, the very few factors that create wage slavery. Those very same factors are used to fire people at will, employees, and again, those bring a lot of suffering. It's a very backward and primitive practice that we must consider and demand for it to change, be reformed, and have more security as far as more checks and balances as far as the power that companies have over their employees. Again, this is a monstrous topic about wage slavery and labor abuse. So I may dedicate a few more audio recordings to the subject, and hope to entertain you for next recording. Again, this has been Hector Vladimir. Today is January the 6th, 2016. Thank you and have a good day. In the last show recording, I mentioned in the last few minutes about organizations, corporations, how they are set up, and how this current setup of them may be flawed, perhaps critically, vitally, and that corporations have an immense amount of power over individuals, over employees especially. And this very same power is used to abuse, to manipulate, to maltreat, to fire individuals, employees. So I have thought about a very different structure. This was an idea that came up during a discussion with a very dear friend of mine, Mr. Mark Rodriguez over at the RFAB. And my friend and I had a quite lengthy discussion and quite heated discussion about the structural system and how I would run a company. When I say structure system, the structure of a company. How can it be better than the current conventional system of having corporations, companies, having a pyramid command or structure as far as economic, social, and organizational. The pyramid structure, just briefly, is just having a boss, president, head, however you want to name it, owner over at the top, at the very top peak of the pyramid, and the company's, the boss's henchman, the inner circle right below him, a few more, perhaps two, and then those people have their managers, top supervisors below them, perhaps four, two to each henchman or inner circle up top, and you get the picture. I mean, it grows from top down. Same thing with orders and commands and policy. They come from top down. Their approval system is from top down. The big man up top, big head, big wig up top, makes the most important decisions and delegates all of the other petty and more meager decisions to his top management and people up top below him, and so on. Those people up top delegate authority to the ones below him, immediately below him, and the system, the process goes on up until you hit the very bottom people, the basic employees, petty employees as they call them, at the very bottom, which are as they call them, bottom feeders, because they are at the bottom of this very real pyramid. So again, the discussion with my friend Mark, this was back in 2012, perhaps early 2013. I had a discussion about how would I run a company, if not using the same system, same old system that is always, or perhaps mostly, used here in America and throughout the Western world or capitalist world. And I thought about it for a minute. I did not really have an idea, but I quickly came up with an answer, or relatively quickly, and it was employee owned. I had heard about this in the past, perhaps not my own idea, but it came to mind at the time, and it would be a employee / or dash owner structure, to where all employees own the company, own a very substantial amount of the company at the very least, and no one person owns more of the company than any other. Basically, employees would own a company equally. Each employee would own a company equally, and there are many disadvantages to this, but I could not think of too many, especially not more than the advantages that such structure could carry. There are examples of such structure out there right now, very few, but they still are out there. Of course, this structure, this company structure, it's got challenges to it. The company would have necessarily to be made up of individuals of very similar background, very similar skill, very similar contribution capabilities, since they will all own a equal part of the company. And in my mind, they will all try to very similarly or very close in amount. They will try to contribute to the company in very similar amounts or very similar worth. Again, because of their similar background, similar ownership, and it would be a leaderless or very flat structure, not pyramid or triangle structure. It would be more like a congressional structure where votes would be needed, and each vote would be very much equal worth for big decisions. Nothing's delegated. Things are distributed or shared as far as decisions, responsibilities, assets, etc. Again, the details are many, and I perhaps may write a paper about this idea. It is not new. It is not an idea I claim to have come up with, but I have not looked into the structure and the current companies utilizing something of the nature of something like this structure. I'm sure there are very many variations of this, but employee-owned companies, I think, are by far a much better choice than the current pyramid scheme, pyramid structure of most corporations out there, where a president, owner, or board of directors own a company and own the direction of a company, and the majority just falls in line to those decisions made by the very few at the top. I think a company like that, this structure is, although works for the most part, has worked as far as present day economy or economics, it does at the same time bring, like I said, a lot of suffering and a lot of harm and damage, both human and environmental. And just to touch a little more on my own experiences with companies for the most part want you to work. They do not have much interest or any interest in you taking any time off. Balance of family life and work is very much tipped over to the work side. I mean, simply by looking at the amount of days you have to work and the amount of days you have off, that's the first indicator of more or less how the system is set up for you to mostly work and dump your family, dump your friends, dump your loved ones, close ones, neighbors, personal life. I mean, it is just very, very interesting the way it's set up, and how everyone seems to just accept it and buy this lifestyle, this work ethic, this work custom of just working 40 plus hours. For the most part, it's over 40. Well, it's almost always over 40 because I count I count as work time the minute you wake up to go to work, and I also count as work time the minute you take off that uniform or outfit, clothing that you use for work at home. The minute you take that tie off and put that cell phone away, that's when your clock actually stops from work. For some, it doesn't even stop there. They keep that cell phone on, and they may get any call from the company at any given moment during the day or night, and they will happily take that call and perform business, even at the dinner table, even while playing with their kids or family or friends or cousins or grandparents, even when on vacation, quote unquote vacation. So again, my experience has been that companies do not care for the most part whether your life is balanced or not. They do not care for the most part about your welfare as far as health, as far as psychological welfare, as far as again, mental, emotional. Any of that stuff is just icing on the cake for them. Yes, some companies do have programs and do care seemingly about those things, but those are few and far in between. Again, I am yet to find one that very much cares about those things, especially making sure each employee, whatever level that employee may be in, each employee has plenty of family time off for themselves, for their loved ones, and that right there, time off, is very much limited and very, very much discouraged by most companies I've been working with, and in my experience, most out there. This has been my experience through, again, other people telling me about it, some research that I have performed on the subject, and just all you have to do is look, talk to people, and they'll tell you. I mean, I've talked to several individuals that have worked a lifetime. They have retired from one or more companies, and their experience has been the same, where there's very little time off. Time off is very limited, not encouraged, and just the percentage of time off compared to the time that you work is just unbalanced completely. It's probably like 80-20. You work 80% of the time, you get maybe, if you work for a very, very good and reasonable company, you may get 20% of the time for yourself and family. I believe it's mostly more than that. Less time, less percentage that you get off. Perhaps 10 or less for most individuals, for most companies out there. I will look up on some of the details I've shared with you, especially some of the claims and statistics that I have shared, and I will post the exact numbers again on the blog, website, and YouTube channel in the comments section. Thank you very much. Hope to see you and attract your attention next time. Thanks.
Corporate mercenaries benefiting from war. We all know where you're going. We know that you're out there.
And just to bring up a couple of other examples dealing with wage slavery and the way the system is set up for you to mostly work throughout a lifetime and even past that. I'm talking past your retirement years. Just as an example, very many people, perhaps most, will not even consider quitting their jobs. And I'm not talking about quitting just because they want to. They want to lay back. They want to just not do anything. They want to just take a permanent vacation, if you will. No, I'm talking about um, when emergencies arise, when life-changing events stares in the face, when they are clearly being cheated, being mistreated, being abused, being taken advantage of. These people do not even consider leaving their job, as I like saying it, voting with their feet by just leaving, because they are so much dependent on that little paycheck that comes to them every week, every 2 weeks, every month, that it doesn't even cross their mind looking for a better place. And this is very disturbing and sad, and very counterproductive, because if we don't vote with our feet, one of the most powerful tools for change and betterment is not even utilized, is not even used. Yes, we can nag and we can claim about better treatment and improving, but you tell me, how much does that work? How much change you actually get? How fast does it come about? Does it come about at all through laments and nagging and you trying to talk to your boss? Unless you have a very powerful union where it's not only your voice but many of your coworkers' voice as one put together, making claims and making demands, sadly enough, very little change will happen. Even in the case of powerful unions, it takes a very apparent and very prevalent abuse and or wrongdoing before they actually come together and demand change. Sadly enough, that's how we operate. A lot of people, most people, to my experience, do not bother with asking for change or demanding change unless things get so bad that it's basically unbearable not to demand change. And I think that is wrong. I think that is counterproductive again, and it is very disturbing as far as how people operate. And again, that very powerful tool of voting with one's feet is not even considered, because we are such slaves to that little job, that little employer that we have, that we rather take, many times, a lot of us rather take abuse, shame, and humiliation over even considering leaving. And it's understandable, because a lot of people don't want that to go on their resume, them leaving. Companies now call your last employer and see how you behaved, basically. And if you have left for whatever reason other than, in good terms, and after many years of hard work, and after talking to them, sweet talking to them, unless you have done that, they will probably most likely give you a bad reference, meaning they're going to tell the employer that's calling for your reference that you left in bad terms, and you left because you are unreasonable and you can't talk to anyone, you don't have patience, you rather leave than ask for change, when in reality you may have tried to bring about the change, and you found the best way to change, for you at least, is to leave. Leaving is very much frowned upon, is very much a bad and taboo action for employees, and is very often punished and reprimanded by this fact of bad references, companies telling their side of the story and not giving you even the chance to give your input, give your side. Um, but even so, I believe this is basically the most powerful tool you can use to bring about change. Yes, you can, and I do recommend you attempt to bring about change before you leave. Of course, this usually in today's society, the way the system is set up, brings a lot of suffering, could bring a lot of inconvenience to you if you do leave your job. But if it gets to the point where abuse and mistreatment and just utter injustice is being done to you, and change does not come fast enough with talking, with dialogue, leaving is the next best thing. This is my personal opinion, and I believe if it were done more, companies would bring about corrections and change about abuse and mistreatment and the misuse of power. They would bring about change much quicker because they would know they don't want to lose experience, they don't want to lose good employees, and they would basically respond very quickly to each and every employee's demands and accusations, just so they don't have to go through yet another good employee leaving them. That is one thing I wanted to bring up about people using their feet to vote or to bring about change. It must be used a lot more often. And also how people are just programmed, they're brainwashed not to even consider leaving a job because of the consequences that it could bring to them, to their career, to their record, and their track that they feel like they must put in their resume. As a personal example, I have met one or more, actually a couple of cases where people are working, they're doing very good, they've been working for that certain employer for quite a while. It's usually in the same setting where they are dependent on their employer very much, and they have a big savings account, they have big 401k retirement plan, they have benefits, they have cushy living arrangements, they have property, land, sometimes they even have their property and land paid off. They have very little worries, and yet a big family event comes up, like a sickness in the family, and the last thing that they would consider would be to leave their job. When I say sickness, I mean like a terminal sickness. Someone just lost their ability to stay conscious. A stroke occurred in the family, some sort of accident crippled someone, and sadly enough, even terminal diseases or sicknesses such as cancer may have struck the family, and yet still these people do not even consider quitting their jobs and spending time taking care of that person, or even spending time the last few weeks or months that person has here in this world. This is a very disturbing, again, and sad situation, and very, very maddening situation where people rather keep making money than spend the last days with someone that has a terminal disease or sickness. That is very sad. Maybe in their mind they think they should just keep working because they need to pay medical bills, and if they lose their job or quit their job, it'll make matters worse. But in reality, a job and employer should not have a hold of someone that tight to where they think they cannot they cannot leave that job or employer to spend the last weeks or months with someone with a terminal illness. That is the very accurate definition of being a slave to an employer. Take a leave of absence for however many weeks or month you need to be with that person that is close to you, even a next of kin, your loved one, so you can spend the time with that person regardless whether you go broke or not. No one, to my knowledge, has starved to death because they have left a job. That is just a fallacy that a lot of people bring, that if it wasn't for my employer, I would be starving. That is so far from the truth, especially here in the advanced world and the free and advanced and developed world. No one has starved because they lost their job. There are so many options to keep yourself fed, housed, and clothed on a temporary basis at the very least. A lot of people do it for a lot longer than that with no penalties whatsoever. And don't tell me or anyone else that if you lost your job, you're going to go hungry, you're going to lose your home, and you're going to lose your property. Is it possible? If you let it, of course it's possible. You can go hungry and lose your home while being employed if you let it. But if you let go of a little employer, and if you've been working all of your life, if you have savings, you have cushion as far as property and money, and 401k, which could be tapped into very easily, especially during or after a life-changing event. Don't tell me that you don't want to quit your job, because that would make matters worse. It may make matters worse for your comfort, for your current quality of life. You know what? So be it. Let it be. Let your quality of life take a hit. Let your comfort take a hit. But don't tell me that you don't want to quit your job and don't want to miss on making money for a few weeks or months to take care of a sick person or child, because you may go hungry, or you may lose your home in the process. I would think about that very hard, especially here in the Americas, where people are just workaholics, and they cannot consider even losing a few paychecks, losing a few weeks or months worth of pay. We should consider our priorities when it comes to time, family, health, friends, neighbors, next of kins, each other, even enemies, and reflect on what's really important in life. Because like I said before, no one in their deathbed wishes they would have made more money. They would have spent more time working. They would have done more for their company or boss. They all, for the most part, wish they would have spent more time with themselves, with their families, with their loved ones, with their neighbor, and also doing more good, doing more for others, doing more for humanity. So let's consider that before it's too late. unless you are already in that situation. Even if you are in that situation, you can still consider and change. And don't hesitate for a moment to leave that job, to leave that employer, if you see fit, if you see it as a necessity to improve not only your way of life, your quality of life, but also others, future employees that may work for that company in the future. Because if you walk off and you do it for a good reason, like to end abuse, to end prejudice, to end mistreatment, then that company will surely think just a bit more. Maybe however little it might be, that company may just think a little more before doing the same thing to another employee in the future. Again, even if it's just a tiny bit, even if it takes them just another minute to think about doing what they did to you to another employee. Thank you very much. This has been another recording by Hector Vladimir. Today is January the 6th, 2016. Just to bring up a quick point about wage slavery and how people are tied, like their life depends on it, to a job or employer. A lot of times that I have noticed, this happens because people are just up to their necks, up to their eyeballs in debt and in bills, utility bills, and in all kinds of financial commitments. And that is a huge, big reason, and why I made the radio show Living Off the Grid in the city, because of the very fact that when you attempt to live off the grid, you're also, as I mentioned, attempting to lower your dependence on others. Not only energy dependence, but financial responsibility and dependence on the services of companies, others, to the best of your abilities. A lot of people have financial dependence on banks, loan companies, institutions, the government lending them money, student loans, personal loans, dealerships, car dealerships for car payments, for automobile loans, your mortgage, your home mortgage company or bank that may have given you a loan or facilitated you, quote unquote, facilitate a loan to you. A lot of people have all of these, or many of these commitments, financial commitments to all these companies and entities, and that is a big reason why they would not even entertain leaving their job, slowing down their paycheck, or at least temporarily not pausing receiving that paycheck. That is a big reason. That is a big tie, a big attachment to that employer, the financial burden that they have. And people must consider, as I mentioned before, many people have mentioned in the past, living within their means, not buying that huge home, 6-7 bedroom home when you have two to three kids or less, or some people have even no family at all, as far as other than themselves. Some people live alone in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bedroom homes for one reason or another. A lot of people have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cars, vehicles, which all have payments, insurance payments. They all need gas, maintenance, and they wonder why they're drowned in debt. However much they may be making, they may be making 6 digits every year, and yet they probably cannot keep up with their bills and cannot save any money. And we must consider that. That is a huge reason why people are the way they are and why they are such wage slaves. The financial side of it. And although we should not wait for our financial life to be in order for us to take action with our employers, if any employers, as far as straightening out problems, whatever it takes, even leaving, and but taking care of your financial life and basically eradicating all kinds of financial burdens to the best of your ability is a way to also helping out with the wage slavery problem. Do not become so indebted and so drowned in financial commitments that not working is just not an option. Not working should be an option for everyone, at the very least on a temporary basis. You should not feel that you cannot stop working for a week or 2 weeks. You should have the freedom and facility to just stop working at any moment and take the time for whatever you may need it for, whether it's family, look for another job, project you may want to do, travel, enjoyment, whatever, taking a break. You should be able to, in my mind, anybody should be able to just say, okay, taking the next 6 months off. Why? Because I want to go to a couple of countries I have never visited and I wanted to visit. Because I want to go do some good for people in need in certain areas. Because I want to go spend a month or 2 with my mother or father or grandparent or uncle or brother or sister-in-law that needs help or need some kind of assistance or need some kind of company. We should be able to make that decision in a short period of time without worrying about your car payment, your mortgage, that personal loan, your student loan, all of that stuff should not be factors. Are they? Absolutely. Mainly because we let it be. We let them be factors.
Puppet journalists who spew fiction as fact and bury lies was told to invade Iraq and Afghanistan. You're a part of the scam that allows the carnage of child, woman, and man. The 9/11 Commission's rendition of truth is fiction. Tower 7 ain't mentioned. Why the omission of his controlled demolition? Silverstein said, pull it. There's more spin on your book than that magic bullet. From Pennsylvania to the lawn of the Pentagon, the cards on. They set pawns with things wrong like pythons that spawn another Saigon. For cash, oil profits soar as rockets crash. It was a high-rise genocide plan from the inside. Nowhere, let it fly. Bush cater, ISI, CIA, FBI got the world terrorized. Your lies don't justify globalized homicide. Homicide.
Picking up on my last topic of wage slavery, I'd like to discuss really quick in this small chat how do you know when you are a wage slave? How can you find out? Well, I got a few bits of